I'm going to share with you today 6 pieces of advice based on my experiences in the hopes that they will help prepare you for leadership roles. The first piece of advice is to take the opportunity to be inspired by your interests. Leaders are passionate and dedicated. You can't be passionate and dedicated to something you're not interested in. Follow your interests, do what you love, and success will follow. Life's not about the money, it's about making a difference in something you truly believe in. I joined the NCI because I wanted to enable and support researchers who are dedicating their lives to searching for cures for cancer. Improving the way that we do analysis of data and the way that we design studies leads to better outcomes in medical research. I firmly believe this, so advocating for it, which was my job, came naturally. If you follow your interests and align your work with your passions, work will not be a chore, it will be a calling. The second piece of advice is to take the opportunity to challenge yourself. Leaders are faced with challenges all the time, and we learn from each one, allowing us to focus on bigger and harder challenges. I took a big challenge after I left NIH. In my work there, I saw an inefficiency, matching money and projects. Lots of time was wasted by investigators applying for small amounts of money, and then we also lacked applications for large amounts of money. The problem with matching people and funding opportunities really hit home for me when I had the job of figuring out how to invest $10 million in improving data science education. My team spent years developing funding opportunities. When the funding opportunity announcements closed, we hadn't received many applications. We could not even give away all the money that we had. Later, many investigators told me how that opportunity would have been perfect for them had they known about it. That's when I knew that a recommendation engine was really needed. I pitched the idea internally, but then I was told that the government can't recommend, and this would be a recommendation. So I and another program officer left NIH, founded a company, created a product, which is essentially a recommendation engine for funding opportunities. It scrapes the web and creates a data set of current funding opportunities. And then a researcher enters the abstract for the grant that she wants to be funded, and then text mining is done to match the abstracts with the funding opportunities. So building this product was a challenge. I had to dust off my programming skills, learn a little bit about databases, and also about building systems. I had to learn about website development and securely enabling monetary transactions. I had to learn how to run a business. All of these were challenges, but all of these challenges were instructive. I learned from the experience, and when you cease challenging yourself, you cease enriching the soil of your garden. The next piece of advice is to take the opportunity to build deep knowledge and skills. So leaders continue to learn. You have technical knowledge and you have domain expertise, and you need to continue building those. But you also need to continue building the things that are sometimes referred to as soft skills. They're absolutely necessary. They're leadership skills. They're things like communication and emotional intelligence. Communication skills are necessary because leaders are communicators. So Barry Nussbaum, the former ASA president, summed it up nicely in his 2017 JSM presidential address. His message was a twist on the old saying, "It's not what you say, it's what they hear." He said, it's not what you say, it's not what they hear, it's what they say you said. An often overlooked set of skills is collectively known as emotional intelligence. Leaders need a certain base level of technical competence, but beyond that, it's emotional intelligence that distinguishes the okay from the great. Emotional intelligence consists of 5 different things. It consists of self-awareness, which is understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, and your impact on others. It consists of self-regulation, which is being able to control your disruptive impulses or moods. It also consists of motivation, which is internal drive, empathy, which is understanding other people's emotions and using that understanding to inform your decisions, as well as social skill. Practicing your communication skills and your emotional intelligence skills will serve you well as a leader. The next piece of advice is to welcome the responsibility to widen your knowledge and skills. Leaders understand how their work fits into a bigger picture. In my current job, I lead a group of data scientists, computer scientists, and analysts. I'm honored to work with such a highly qualified, dedicated group of professionals who care about the United States. Their knowledge and skill set span way more than mine, and I'm constantly trying to widen my knowledge in order to understand and represent their work better. The next piece of advice is to welcome the responsibility to challenge others to succeed. Leaders lead through inspiring others, building up others, and challenging them to succeed. Salary Morton, the Dean of the College of Science at Virginia Tech, as well as the 2009 ASA president, once told me, "Leaders are content to stand in the back of the room, out of the limelight, and take great satisfaction in knowing that they played a part in supporting the person at the podium." What Sally is referring to is building up others by mentoring. Another way to build up others is through teaching. We usually think of teaching as standing in front of a classroom, but it can also be in writing. For example, you can reach a big audience by writing an article for Chance magazine. Chance aims to educate a general audience about statistics. It publishes vignettes about interesting applications of statistics. So you should consider submitting an article to Chance or even applying to be the next executive editor. If you want more information about Chance, send an email to the current executive editor, Amanda Peterson Plunkett. Here's her email address. The next piece of advice is to inspire others by setting a direction. Leaders develop and share their vision. We typically think of this when we think of a leader. We think of someone who stands up in front of the room and sets a direction and communicates it. Once someone is in front of the room, few people question their right to be there. But when you're in the audience, you might question whether it's your place to set a direction and communicate it. And the answer is a resounding yes. So let me tell you about my first experience developing and sharing a vision. And that was with the BD2K, the Big Data to Knowledge program. So BD2K was an NIH-wide initiative to address big data. Initially, it started out as a $100 million 5-year program that was viewed as a down payment on the future, where data would be ubiquitous. It was an acknowledgement that taking full advantage of that data was of greatest importance for the advancement of medicine and healthcare. My involvement with BD2K started when it was a vague idea about developing a program to deal with big data. And in my mind, of course, dealing with big data meant statistics. I knew statisticians need to have a seat at the table. So I strategized about how to get involved. And at the time, I was a very junior program officer, and very senior program directors with lots of experience were already planning on how to distribute the money. I wrote to each one, and I volunteered to help. I wrote to my boss, and I volunteered to help. I even wrote to Francis Collins, the director of NIH, and volunteered to help. One of these paths was enough to get me invited to the first meeting, where it quickly became clear that all parts of the program already had leaders, except for the training component. So I volunteered to lead training. I didn't know the first thing about training at that time, but I volunteered to lead it as if I were the expert because I wanted a spot on the leadership team. I wanted a spot because I knew that what I had to offer was scientifically unique and was absolutely necessary for achieving the ultimate goal of pushing biomedical science towards a future where learning from data happens continuously and quickly. The takeaway from this story is that you don't need to wait to be asked to join a team or to take on leadership roles. You don't need to wait to be asked to set a direction and communicate it. When you see an opportunity, welcome the responsibility. Preparing for more and diverse leadership roles never ends. No matter how experienced you are, you must continue to take opportunities and welcome responsibilities in order to grow, in order to enrich the soil for your flowers, your plants, and your trees to grow. Your garden is your sanctuary, where you work, where you live, and where you thrive. Leadership skills, along with the statistical and data science skills that you have in abundance, are a powerful combination that will take you far. But there are also things outside of your control. There are storms, frosts, and droughts. These are the challenges that you might face. So let's talk about some challenges of leadership as a woman. Women face all the same challenges that their male counterparts face, and there are way too many to enumerate. But there are some challenges that women tend to face more than their male counterparts based on what I've seen in today's society. And I want to talk about two of those challenges today. The first is the challenge of being heard, and the second is the challenge of work-life balance. In my garden, I'll call these the frost and the storm. So the frost is getting the cold shoulder. It's the challenge of being heard or not being heard. It's the perception, real or not, that we're generally being ignored. And this could be from being interrupted. It could be the feeling of having your ideas attributed to others. It could be the feeling of not getting the recognition that you deserve. This is, of course, discouraging. It attacks our sense of justice and fairness, and it leads us to being less engaged and less productive than we otherwise would be. So let's talk about what we can do about it. So as far as interruptions go, in some workplace cultures, I'm told, interruptions happen all the time. That in order to be heard, you have to be the loudest, most aggressive person in the room. In an ideal workplace culture, nobody gets interrupted, ever. But most of us live in a culture that's between the two, and some people get interrupted some of the time. Women tend to notice being interrupted more. But there are strategies that we can adopt in order to lessen the interruptions or lessen the effects of them. So to lessen the interruptions, we could fight back against them. And we fight back against them by not ceding the floor. When you are the one talking, only you can cede the floor. So if someone tries to interrupt, keep talking. Slow your pace down, but keep a steady pace and keep going. And usually, the interrupter will get the message. The second thing we can do to lessen the effect of an interruption is to make sure to get our main point across first, and then the supporting points. And if you get interrupted while giving your supporting points, then follow up with an email afterwards saying, here's my point. Here's some supporting points. Here's what I would have finished had I not been interrupted. This will at least lessen the effect and make sure that your voice gets heard. The next thing, besides interruptions, we could have the feeling of not getting the recognition that we deserve. This might take the form of not getting promoted or not getting the assignments that you want. And what are some strategies we can do in order to prevent this? Well, you can and you should directly ask for things. Directly ask for that raise. Directly ask for the assignment that you want. Make sure that your supervisor and your manager knows what you're interested in and what you're capable of. Another thing you can do is to remember to toot your own horn and toot the horn of people around you. So a gender stereotype is that women tend to downplay their intelligence and their contributions. When you see this happen, or when you notice it in yourself, correct the record. Do that for yourself. Do it for other women that you see, or whenever it happens. Emphasize what you know, and honestly admit what you don't know. I mean, we're statisticians, so we should be comfortable with uncertainty.